Hey guys, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Um, Me and some Sideline sisters got together and we just want to give you some tips to kind of help you run your business from start to successful on little or no money. And some of these fabulous women here have some great stories and tips. So I will just let Erica get started.
Hey guys, okay, so my name is Erica Ramirez. I'm a triple diamond. I've been in this business for 3 years. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got started. Um, I am on a team with a lady. She basically was following up with me for like 9 months. I reached out to her at the beginning and I didn't sign up. I was kind of like giving her the runaround for a long time. It took me 9 months of her following up and her basically saying, "Hey, look, do you really want to do something with yourself to change your life or not?" And I really I was like, "Oh my goodness, she's so right." I felt really bad because I had given her the runaround, and I didn't have any money for those other months. So we couldn't really afford to do it because we do have 7 children between me and my husband. It's his and mine and ours together. Um, I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't work at all, but my husband actually worked from like 5 o'clock in the morning to 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So he was always working. He was never home, and he was just had to work to make ends meet. Um, we couldn't afford to go to the movies. We couldn't afford to do really anything. We were home. Um, I was doing 40 plus hours couponing. I had a crazy amount of stockpile in my garage, but we couldn't afford to do anything else. So that was my kind of little background of what was going on. I had never sold anything in my life. I never thought I was going to be good at this or anything like that as well. We literally had got some money out of nowhere. Okay, we got some money out of nowhere, and I used that to get started. We could have went and spoiled ourselves and gone out to eat and gone to do whatever, but we decided to get started because I needed to get a job and I wanted to spend time with my husband. I wanted to spend more time with him. I had no idea how we were going to do that because, paying for daycare is so expensive. And for 2 babies, 2 kids in diapers and formula and all that kind of stuff, there's no way we could have afforded it before. So we went ahead and got started. I could not afford an auto shipment. I could not afford it. So here's the thing. When you cannot afford an auto shipment, you need to sell those wraps in your kit. That's what we did. We sold the wraps in our kit. We signed up loyal customers to get our wrap rewards. So for every 2 loyal customers you enroll, you get a wrap reward. And so I made sure I enrolled as many loyal customers as I possibly could because I knew that was wrap cash in my pocket, and I was going to use that wrap cash to pay for whatever I wanted and to run my auto shipment. And that's what we did to kind of get started. I made sure I did that every month, no matter what, until I started getting distributors. And when I started getting distributors, I made sure they had their auto shipment set up, and I made sure everybody had a launch party. Everybody got the first 2 customers because I wanted to make sure I got my fast start bonus for our income and to make sure our auto shipment was ran. Anything else?
When you were doing your auto shipment at first, did you try any products for yourself or did you always get wraps?
At the beginning, I was told about this company from my sister-in-law. I was pregnant with twins. I actually ended up losing one. So, but I had still had all the extra baby weight. So I really was honestly interested in the wraps when I first started. I didn't even know it worked sold anything else besides that. So I was really just triggered on the wraps. And I would really, back then, they didn't have, I don't think they had everything they do now. At least people weren't pushing it all crazy and learning how to work social media. It was kind of when social media, they were using social media, but not as much. So I was only using the wraps maybe the first month, but after that, I had a lot of health issues. So I was, my upline told me, she was like, well, use the greens. She had told me how amazing the greens were and what they had done for her and other people that she knew. So I got on the greens. I was just using the greens and the wraps. And I actually lost, I was a size 18 when I started, and I was size 18, I went down to 10, 12. within months. And I started the greens my second month. I was wrapping like crazy because I was signing up oil customers and getting wrap rewards and all that kind of stuff. I had my first 10 wrap parties by myself. I was so excited about making wrap cash. I didn't even know I was having wrap parties, in all honesty. And all I had on me was wraps. I didn't have any other products. I had boxes of wraps, and I went into that person's house and I told them, hey, look, $25 for a wrap. You know, when you sign up as a loyal customer, you need to have a wrap party so we can help you. Maybe if you're interested in making some extra money. It was awesome. You know, so I always had every loyal customer have a wrap party for stuff like that. You know, it was just so exciting. So it got everybody excited about their wrap results. I made lots and lots of crazy wrap cash. I told them, if you have 4 friends over, I'll give you a wrap for free. For everybody that wraps, every 4 people that wrap, I'll give you a wrap for free. And I think the biggest wrap party I had was like 20 people. Wow. And don't get me wrong, that is like ridiculous, and I never want to do it again. It was amazing. Don't get me wrong, the wrap cash is amazing, but I live in Houston, and I joined in March. So this was like in March and April, and it is hot. It is hot here. So they weren't sweating, but I was sweating. You know, because I'm there trying to wrap 20 people. You know, I'm there trying to wrap 20 people, make sure I get my money, make sure I wrap everybody. And back then we measured people. That's when we used to measure them. So measuring them, taking pictures, writing it all down, writing everybody's information, all that stuff. It was a workout. But
how did you find your loyal customers and the people that you were wrapping? Were these your friends, or how did you get them? How did you?
Actually, I had no friends. I had no friends at all. I had people on Facebook, and I knew that whenever I started, I was not going to have it easy. Nobody in my family wanted to try any products at all. None. And I had to, so only one of my friends, this girl that I had knew, my husband works with her husband. And I had called her. I said, look, I'm so sorry to bug you, but I'm starting this. You know, we're struggling. If you can just have some friends over, help me out. You know, if 4 of them buy a wrap, I'll give you one for free. I called everybody and I told them that, and she was the only one that didn't.
So you actually got on the phone and called people?
Yeah, because I was so terrified. I spent that $99. I was like, oh my God, that could have been something for my kids, or we could have taken them out to do something. I was so scared that was going to be a waste of money. I was terrified. I remember I called my sister. I was like, oh my God, I just wasted this $100. We could have done whatever with it. I was crying because I had never sold anything, and I'm not some crazy, I'm not some woman that has this amazing personality that people love all the time, you know? I'm really blunt, and I have a strong personality. And so it can kind of put people off, you know? So I thought I was making the biggest mistake ever. And but I always want people, I want the best for everybody. And I don't try to upsell people. I just tell them, look, try this out, you know what I mean? And from there, we're going to go from there. And we can see if you need to put something else in there later on. But her name is Belinda. She had a wrap party for me for the first time. And she ended up having wrap parties every 4 days so she can get her free wrap. And she was getting great results for herself. And so she was doing it every 4 days. She wanted the free wraps, and then her girlfriends wanted their free wrap. So it just really took off like that. You know, it was because I was so scared of failing. I was so scared because everybody was telling me no. But I didn't let it stop me. I was like, I'm going to get everybody on the phone. I'm going to ask them. I do not care if they tell me no. I'm going to go to the next person. I'm going to go to the next person. I was going to go to my neighbors. I was going to go across the street. I didn't even care because I know my family needs to make some extra money, and we need to make it happen. And when you have kids, it doesn't matter if you have 1 kid. It doesn't matter if you have 2. It doesn't even matter if you're pregnant right now. If you have kids, you can't make excuses. When it really comes down to it, you can't. They need to be the reason why you wake up and the reason why you go to bed at 3 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? And then you get up at 7 in the morning. It's never going to be easy, but it's always going to be worth it. That's what I've learned. You know, it's just amazing. We all kind of get in a rut sometimes. So when we get in a rut, I get in a rut a lot because I let my kids kind of go all crazy and all that kind of stuff. But I just get overwhelmed, and I have to kind of shut down and kind of block everybody out for a little bit for me to kind of get my grasp back on, just because life happens. But we all started this for a reason. We all started this for whatever reason it may be. We have kids in college right now. We have kids not in college, they're older. We have our oldest is going to be 21, and our youngest is 3. So we have a large range of ages of children. And let me tell you something, it doesn't get easier when they get older at all.
It's more expensive.
Yes. You know what I mean?
I just got insurance for my first one, for car insurance. Yeah.
Our car insurance went up like $150 a month. And my husband's like, oh, it's okay. You can just work a little bit harder. I'm like, really? You know, yeah. And so we know that's whenever I started this business, because I was like, okay, my son is going to start college in 2 years. I was telling myself, okay, 2 years, I need to be doing something. I need to be making money. We had no insurance when I started. We had no health insurance. We had we really didn't have much of anything, but my husband worked his butt off. It was crazy. We had no health insurance. Our health insurance wanted us to pay $1,400 a month for our family. And then it was so expensive. So I knew I had to, my health was going down. I had PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, and cervical cancer cells. So I had everything wrong with me, and things trying to stop me at all times of the day, crazy amounts of pain. And then the past 3 years, I was going through, not the past 3 years, the past year, I was really going through treatments. I gained 80 pounds through the treatments in 5 months. And so I'm just barely starting to lose it because I had my last surgery early in the year. But whatever you are trying to accomplish, anybody can do it. You just have to really want it. That's what at least I believe. There's going to be always something out there trying to stop you. It just has to be important enough. My kid in college is back there. He's probably getting some food. When they're in college, they eat more. He's probably getting mad at me. When they're in college, they eat more. When they're in college, it's more expensive. And that was my goal, was to be able to make some extra money and at least have some good health insurance, have my kids be able to go to college and us pay for it, and live comfortably at that point. And we made it happen. Thank God college here in Texas is not that expensive if you're going to community college. But without It Works, there's no way we would have been able to do this. No way. I see my family, my cousins and things like that, they're starting to go to college. And I see my aunts and my uncles, they're stressed out. They're stressed out because they're like, oh, he's going to start college. Their kids are going to start college. And I'm like, oh, you should have been on my team a long time ago. No. It's really awesome to be able to not have to stress about paying for college. Now, I do get on his butt still, but do the right things. But it's just easier. Sorry. It's just easier not to have to stress out about money as much, and it's such a blessing. And without It Works, we wouldn't have been able to be here. I don't need a fancy lifestyle, but I do want so much for my kids, and I wish that everybody would get on this business. I don't care if they're on my team. I don't care who you are. I want everybody to be successful. And I went to Green Carpet this past week, and I met so many sidelines. I met so many sideline people that it was just amazing. I never try to reach out to people that were on my sidelines. I try to just reach out to people before that were on my team or my downline or on my upline. But I learned so much, so much. So anybody watching this, if you are not connecting with your upline or your downline, whatever it may be, reach out to your sideline sisters. Find people that you feel like you can connect with. It might be a little bit awkward at the beginning, but do it because it's an amazing thing that can happen. I met a lot of diamonds, double diamonds. We had rented out like a resort for everybody, but a lot of people on our team had actually canceled out, and so they didn't go. And there was 3 people that ended up renting out the rooms that that we had open, and one of them was on Jade Hooper's team. One of them was on under Denise Walsh. Another one is on, I completely forgot who it is, but it was like somebody that's not crazy big on social media. And I really learned that they're all doing the same thing as we are. Every one of those leaders is seriously doing the same thing. Because they were picking my brain, I was picking their brain. It was awesome. It was really cool. It's cool to know that nobody's better than anybody in this company. All it takes is you doing your individual work.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Erica, for sharing your story with us. Hannah, do you want to go next?
Yeah, okay. Okay, so hi everyone who's going to watch this. I'm Hannah. I am a double diamond. I am very ready to go triple any second now, but my time is not here yet. Okay, so when I joined It Works, let me tell you a little bit of my background, and then there's like this really funny story that everyone's going to chuckle at, and I don't tell it often, but I should because it's why I joined. So before It Works, I worked for a corporate office. I worked full-time, I worked weekends, and I worked overtime a lot. I was a full-time student, and I still am, and I worked part-time at a police department getting ready to go through the academy. It was ridiculous, and then once a month, I drilled with the National Guard. So it was insane. Corey was working an hour south of where we lived, and I was working an hour north, and we only had one vehicle at the time. So it was ridiculous. He worked nights, and I worked 6 a.m. to midnight. So, and he had rotating third shifts. So he worked 3 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off, or something like that. So it was kind of good because then he could, take me places, and I always had to get a ride from my dad. While my car was in the shop, I had to get a new transmission. It was ridiculous. I was always asking friends for rides and like trying to pay them any way that I could, and it was usually in food because that's all I could afford was fast food. So we literally were overdrafting his bank account, Corey's bank account, which is my boyfriend, 3 days before he would get paid. So over $100, and then that tax on a $35 fee. There were times where we had to overdraft the card a week before he got paid, and then so that tax on a $30, $35, and then another $50 or whatever it was. It was crazy. There was one time he was overdrafted over 200 some odd dollars, and it was not fun. So I had a friend that I met through the military a few years ago ask me if I knew anyone who had sold wraps and if I had ever tried them. And so I told her, and I had already had it in my mind. I had just gotten paid. I was like, I want to do this, but I'm not 100% sure. So I lied to her, and I told her that my website was down, and I enrolled. And then I was like, let me send you a message here in a couple hours, and let me see if it's back up. And it was back up. And she enrolled, and the girl that I enrolled under had asked me a few months prior, and I was like, nah, now's not the time because I'd been with 2 other network marketing companies, and I was just so busy in my mind, and I wasn't working network marketing like I should have. I thought it was going to come easy. And those two companies, I'm not even going to name, but I wouldn't have gone anywhere with them. No one who is in them goes anywhere with them. I'll just say that. So that was great. But then I enrolled 16 loyal customers, no distributors in my first 3 months. And mind you, I did not run an auto shipment. My first check was $67. My next one was $71, and then the next one was $72. So it was gradually growing, and I was just happy that I was almost breaking even. And that's all I cared about, because people who start their own businesses, they don't break even for months, sometimes even years. And they take that loss, but they see that vision and they just keep going. And so the month that I made $71, I had a $750 check bounce for rent that was already 2 weeks late. And that was on my way down to conference in 2015 of January. So that was already crazy. And Corey, he was not on board. He was my second distributor. The first one had already technically quit and was a weekend. I was like, okay, whatever. And so he joined with what money he had. And knowing that we were already behind on bills, our electric was behind. We were paying not even the minimum, just like here and there. Our cable was definitely behind, and I hate Comcast already. So it was just a pain to deal with customer service to begin with, and add that in, we were not fond of each other. So I relied a lot on RapCash, and being in the military, a lot of people don't make tape, and so they wanted to, pull that skin in, and, so if you make height and weight, but you don't make tape, they're going to, flag you basically and be like, well, they're not in shape, so we need to work on them. Really stupid, because women sizes are completely different than men. But I was selling wraps left and right so people could get into the military, which is so funny to think about. And I would always schedule a transaction at a gas station, because then once they left, I could put gas in my car. I was always on E. And by this time, I'd already gotten my car back, which was a nice $1,500 bill that my dad basically paid all of it for. So I got very lucky there. Okay, so then Fast Start bonuses, since I had enrolled Corey, he had a separate address at the time, even though we lived together, so it was great. So I got my Fast Start on him. Exciting. And those $100 bonuses literally kept us afloat. Like, being a full-time student, I would have given anything to go to Starbucks, and I found out ways to have an iced coffee, but it was like an Americano with water and ice. So anything to get me through, and it was cheaper. So $2. It's basically like going to McDonald's, but classier. And so whatever I could do to make it work. So still at distributor level come February. At the end of February, so the 28th or whatever that year was, that last day was, I went Ruby. And then 5 days later, I found out I was pregnant, and I had already quit both my jobs. And so I had no choice but to be successful. And I went Emerald in March, Diamond in April, and I earned the $10,000 bonus. I just missed the $20,000, which is fine because I'm still getting paid out on the $10,000, and it pays for 2/3 of my rent now. So it's great. And I just kept going. And through the summer, I kind of slowed down, and then Green Carpet got here, and it fired me back up. And then I went Double Diamond in September. Well, 2 weeks before I promoted, Corey quit his job, and I still had 6 weeks left in my pregnancy, and he went Emerald, and then I went Double. So we just kind of took a leap of faith, and here we are 10 months later, and it's worked out. So my biggest takeaway, and I mentioned this earlier before we started recording, was we are not in the position to care what other people think. And I heard this from, I think she's a presidential diamond. And that is so true, because when you stop caring what other people think, you're going to take off. I promise you, people are going to notice it, and they're going to feed off of it. But you cannot not run an auto shipment. If it takes RapCash, for me, it was, getting those Fast Start bonuses. If I didn't have the money, you better be enrolling people. and you better be fast starting them. We have the double fast starts right now. And just to break it down, to put it into perspective, and this is what I told my team the other day. Whenever you enroll a distributor and they get 4 loyal customers, they're eligible for all bonuses. You get $200 in double fast starts. What will that pay for you? 3 of those will pay for my entire rent, okay? I only pay $600 in rent. Just a regular fast start bonus pays for 2 months of my phone bill, and I have an iPhone, okay? Like, that is incredible. I have such a great deal on my phone, but one of the fast start bonuses, like the double ones right now, pays for my electric and internet and has money left over. Put it in that perspective, and I think it's like a Dave Ramsey theory, and I think Alyssa Bilyeu, she's in my big team. She's an Ambassador Diamond, but she said, put it into perspective how much wrap cash you need to make or how many fast start bonuses you need to make to pay off a certain bill. And then once that's, that envelope is filled up, just keep doing it. Keep working through it, because then you're not going to have debt. You're not going to fall behind. And it's just so important to put it into such a smaller spectrum because we complicate things. These, I think there was 1 month where I didn't have an auto shipment, and it was after I went diamond, and I had just over 200 in volume, and I had a return. I called customer service freaking out, and you know what my volume was? 157 after the return. That is 7 BV that I nearly didn't make, well, technically 8, didn't make my pay and would have had that taken back. And that would have been over $2,000 clawed back. And I would have lost my diamond bonus. Don't not run your auto shipment, because in the long run, it's going to pay for itself. My dad was asking me once, he was like, so what are all these products? Like, do you carry an inventory? I'm like, no, we use all this. Like, open it up. They're all half empty. And so people think, when you join a network marketing company, you have to carry all this inventory, and that is not true by any means. Use the products. And I buy like 1 product extra so I can do giveaways once a month, because that is going to build so much exposure. People are going to want to be a part of something that is giving and fun and exciting. And, Corey and I use everything. I just submitted my before and after results of my C-section scar. Whether it gets approved or not, it doesn't matter. At least they see it. And, our products are amazing. So just be a product of the product. There is something for everyone. And if you say that there's not, then you need some Confianza and you need to take some greens. So, and I don't even think that equals 80 BV. It doesn't. So add something else in there. Add a box of wraps, make some wrap cash. That's all I have. And I could go on and on and on and get fired up and keep going, but I'll take a step back. Let someone else take the reins.
Well, Hannah, real quick, you didn't tell anybody how old you are.
Oh, I'm 22. I turned 22 in May. So May the 4th be with you. Yep.
So how old were you when you started?
I was 20. And I was pregnant when I turned 21, which is fine. I got all my partying stuff done before I got pregnant anyway, so it doesn't matter. But I had my daughter on Halloween. She's a Halloween baby, and she will be 9 months next week. And Corey hasn't missed a moment of her life. He actually stays home whenever I travel, and so it's a lot easier to be able to get to events and, travel to see my team. Like, I'm going to California next week to help a teammate move back out there. And we're driving cross country, so it's going to be interesting. But I volunteered to do that because, one, it's a 35-hour drive, and I didn't want her to do it alone. And I looked at it as an opportunity to come in contact with people that I never would have come in contact with if that opportunity hadn't presented itself. And I have the freedom to. We don't have real jobs, so it's great. So I can just pick up and go, and he can be Mr. Mom. It's great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Hannah.
Thank you. I'm glad I could be on. I'm going to have to hop off, though.
All right. Thank you.
For the recording.
Robin or Vanessa, do you want to go next?
I can go. All right. Okay, so I am Vanessa Cano. I am a double diamond. I joined in October 2013. And the reason why we joined, I made a few videos on this before, but the reason why we joined was because we were always overdrafting our accounts too. And it wasn't, like her, she would do it 3 days before. We needed this like a week or 2 weeks in advance sometimes. And we were overdrafting our account to the max. Like we would pay the bills that we needed to pay, and then right before we needed to pay the next bill, we'd max our account out and overdraft it to the 500 or whatever it allowed us, so that we could pay the other bill in cash and then have cash for groceries and gas for the next week or two. There was many times when our light got shut off. Well, not our light, our water, and we had to. We would turn it off and on by ourselves before the city would find out, and then we would pay, a lot of stuff like that. So that was like the main reason why we joined. My youngest was, he was like about 10 months at that time, and my oldest was 3 or 4. I can't remember. But, seeing them, and, my oldest would ask a lot of questions like, why did our car get taken away? Why did we move out of our house? Just things like that. We've gone through foreclosure. We had cars repossessed. We just struggled a lot. And so that's why we needed this business. I worked as a hotel revenue manager, and that wasn't even paying our bills. And my husband was working. He would get laid off here and there. So every time, like when I took maternity leave or whenever he got laid off, that put us like way behind. So when I saw my coworker's wife post about, a $500 Christmas cash opportunity, plus a $500 guarantee. This was all available at that time. It's nothing like that now. But when she posted about that, I was like, well, I could use an extra $1,000, especially for Christmas. We didn't even know if we were going to be able to afford Christmas. We were probably just thinking about staying at home that year because we couldn't afford it. And it was just terrible, just thinking, just going through all of this, plus not having our kids get anything for Christmas. And we know that Christmas isn't about gifts, it's about being with your family, but, seeing the look on my kids' faces, it was just horrible. It wasn't a great feeling. And so I messaged her, and I messaged my sponsor, and I was like, okay, so what do I got to do to make that $1,000? And she was like, well, first you have to join for $99. And immediately, like, I got that ugly feeling in my stomach because I knew we didn't have the $99. So I was like, you know what? Screw it. I overdrafted my account that Friday again. I paid the $99. I didn't tell my husband because I didn't know what he would say. I already had failed at 2 other marketing companies before, kind of similar to Hannah. They weren't going to get me anywhere. So I jumped all in. I told him once I got the email that my business kit had shipped. And he was like, well, we can't afford it. That was $99 that we didn't even have to begin with. And I was like, well, I know I'm going to get this bonus and I'm going to do whatever we can. And we had done side jobs before. You know, we would do anything just to make money. We would sell clothes. We would sell whatever was in our house before. So he knew the hustle. We at one point we had even made like an ice cream type cart, and you know, like the carts that you see in Mexico when they're pushing corn and stuff. He actually made one, and you know, until the city stopped us, you know, for not having a permit or whatever. But that's the struggle that we had to go through. And this was all while my oldest was a baby. So he knew, you know, that we had to do whatever it took to make some money. So when I joined, I did whatever it took. I didn't get my first 4 loyal customers in my first 30 days, but I was selling wraps like crazy. And the money that I was getting, I was putting back into my account so that it wouldn't be overdrafted. And then I was putting money aside for my auto ship. We never missed an auto ship. The 3 months later in January, we decided for him to join me so that way, you know, I could promote. And so he was basically like my first distributor. And between the two of us, we've always run an auto ship. That's the very first thing that we pay when we get paid. That before all other bills, we run our auto ship, and we run it like the first 3 or 4 months. It was basically just wraps so that I can make wrap cash, because my first commission check was $3. My second one was $16, and then my third one was $31. So between those, that wasn't even enough to even, you know, run an auto ship, or even, you know, I didn't get my commission actually until my 3rd month, because you have to have $21 in order to get your check paid to you. So, you know, that it was all wrap cash, all of it. You know, I got customers and I would, you know, sell wraps. Even if I needed to, you know, buy an extra box by myself, you know, without the wrap rewards, I would, you know, use the cash that I just made to get a box of wraps. You know, and anytime like I had money left over aside from auto ship, or, you know, buying extra wraps so that I can make wrap cash, you know, that bought groceries, that bought diapers. Daycare was expensive. That was $1,000. So, you know, knowing that I didn't have to, you know, pay an extra, you know, $25 or $30 on gas out of our pockets, and that every little bit helped. You know, sometimes it paid for our lights so that it didn't shut off, or our water. And then my 4th month, I went Emerald, and that was a huge game changer, because like I said, the first thing that we did was you know, run our auto ship. And that was the first time that I actually got to try products besides, because I had only tried the wrap once, and that was it. My 4th month is when I started buying stuff for myself to try. I, you know, bought greens. Other things that I had tried too was because my family was my customers. So that was another way that I got to try products without having to run it in my auto ship, and I could make cash for it. But that, you know, so, you know, when I hit Emerald, that's whenever I started, you know, breaking even, and that was my 4th month. So I kept going and going and going until I made whatever I could so that I could, you know, put extra money in our bank account so that we weren't overdrafting every day or every week. And when I first joined, running an auto ship really wasn't an option, because it was, you either ran your auto ship or you had to reach 400 personal bonus volume. There was no ifs or ors. And I was struggling in the beginning to get customers. So I knew that I couldn't, reach 400 in volume, in personal volume, because another reason too was because I was trying to promote. I wasn't trying to stay where I was at. I wasn't trying to keep my customers. I wanted to help my team so that, I could promote too. So I ran auto ship. I've never not run an auto ship. My husband, I got him to 150 after the change was made, maybe twice, and that was it. But I've always ran an auto ship. Even whenever I got him to 150, I would use his account to, place a few orders that we needed products for ourselves. So like I said, like his auto ship is like products for ourselves. My auto ship is always wraps so that I could sell those. You always want to have, wraps. Find local people in your area. I use Instagram and I use the feature, the Geo Tracker or whatever you call it, to find people in my area to sell wraps too. Because you always want to make wrap cash. There's 5 different ways you can get paid, and you want to capitalize on all of them. You don't want to just make commissions. You want to get your bonuses. You want to get wrap cash. Because once you're doing, once you know how to make money, all the different ways you can, you're going to succeed. It took me 14 months to get to diamond. And then 3 months later, I went double. So utilize all the different ways that you can get paid, whether it's wrap cash, whether it's fast start bonuses. And I love that method that she was talking about. Think about what you need to pay or whatever it is. And if you want a new pair of shoes, figure out how much you need, how many customers you need, or how much wrap cash you need to get that new pair of shoes. And, this is why we talk about, dream boards and things like that, because when you're looking at your dream boards, what you're shooting for. And like, if you want to buy a new house, well, how much do you think your mortgage is going to be? You need to know what rank you can comfortably live at to afford that house. So like for me, coming home was double diamond. I was like, okay, if I get to double diamond, this is how much money that I could be potentially making. So at double diamond, that's whenever I'm coming home. So the day that I hit double diamond, that next day I put in my 2 weeks notice and I came home. That was my goal. And so you guys need to figure out what your goal is. And, even like I said, if it's to buy a house or buy a car, what rank can you buy that car at? Or how much wrap cash can you get that with? So, always run an auto ship. It wasn't an option for me. And the 150 has made it easier for a lot of people not to run an auto ship. But you're not trying products for yourself. So are you successful? Because are you sharing your testimony? Or are you sharing others' testimony? You'll attract more people when you're sharing your personal testimony. Like I know that month that I went Emerald, I tried the wrap for the first time and I shared my results. And that's how I got a ton of customers that month. And every month after that, when I was trying a different product, when I shared that, that's whenever I was getting more customers. So run your auto ship to try a product. Even if you think you can get to 150 and you do get to 150, order something small that you could try. At least, Fat Fighters or, greens, at least one product. But if you're not reaching 150 by like the 15th or the 20th of the month, then you should be running an auto ship. Because, then those last, 10 to 15 days of the month, you're not trying to, hustle because you slacked off all month. and now you're not at 150, or the chance that, you know, a loyal customer does return something and then you're screwed and not get paid. So I know the 150 is amazing, but it's also gotten people lazy. Well, not lazy, I should say. It's gotten people comfortable to where they don't even try a product a month. And you're not trying a product, and you're not sharing your own personal testimony. So you're not showing others that you're successful. That's my take on it.
I have a question for you. When you first started, you said that you were selling mostly wraps and you weren't getting loyal customers at first. Where did you find those people when you first started? Were those off Instagram as well, or were they personal contacts that you had?
My first 4 customers, I mean, I didn't make it by the 30 days, but my first 4 customers were, 2 were my family, and then 2 were random people. One came to a barbecue that I had, and it was, you know, a girl that I had just met. She's now one of my best friends. But she was just like a random person that came to a barbecue at first. And then the 4th person was somebody that I found off Facebook in a local business group that I was in. So, and then from there, I would just post on our local business group, you know, I have 5 wraps today at $20, or, you know, $5 off. I mean, in the beginning, they didn't know that $5 off meant $25. Now everybody sells them for $20, $25. So of course, you know, when you do things like that, you do have to tell them, hey, well, the regular price is $30. So you do have to kind of explain it to them, like our Blitz cards, you know, it says $30 on here, but, you know, with this, I'll give you $5 off. So I did run into that a lot in the beginning, too, because there was a lot of people that were kind of shady and weren't, you know, running their business correctly. And they were selling them for like $15 a wrap or whatever. And so I did have to explain to them, you know, that wasn't compliant, and that the price was $30, but that I could offer them $5 off. And then I always remind people too, like if they're buying them at like a really good price, like $15 a wrap or whatever, I tell them, you know, that the person that they're buying them from might be selling old product. So, you know, you always want to buy from an active distributor that, you know, knows, that can read like the expiration on the wraps or whatever, and that you know that you're getting fresh wraps. So that's where I got mainly all my customers. Well, my like Wrap Cash customers are always from like Facebook groups, local groups, and then a lot of like my I do get a lot of referrals too. Like if somebody's asking on one of those pages, does anybody sell It Works? Like a lot of my customers will tag me in them. And so that's always helped.
Vanessa.
Thanks.
Robin, do you want to get started?
Okay, so I'm going to start a little bit before I joined. I joined in January of 2014, but I want to give you a little bit of background. We moved to Tennessee in like May of 2013, I believe. We had moved from Oklahoma. We had a house in Oklahoma we were still trying to sell, and we had rent in a place in Tennessee that was absolutely outrageous. My rent was $1,600 a month. It was just a very expensive place to live. And for the size family that I had, what was available was just very expensive. So we were paying rent and utilities in Tennessee, and we were still making a house payment and utilities in Oklahoma because, you know, when you're trying to sell a house, you've got to have the utilities on. That was over $3,000 a month. And my husband made a little under $4,000 a month. So by the time, typically that's a good middle class income. You can make it on that. You can pay your bills. But there was, once you add in a car payment and health insurance and car insurance and, food for 9 people, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. So I was constantly behind on everything. We were constantly paying bills before the cutoffs, and there was a point where I was almost 3 months behind on my car payment. There were plenty of times that the electricity got shut off, and there were plenty of times that the water got shut off at our house in Tennessee, just because I couldn't pay for it. The money was not there. So it was either pay for water or food for my kids. We also homeschooled at the time. It was almost out of necessity, just because I literally did not have gas money to take them to school, or pay for their lunches at school, or pay for a lunch that was acceptable by the school for them to take to school, pay for the shoes and the backpacks and the things that you have to have for school. So we homeschooled. I had a friend who gave us the curriculum for that and gifted that to us. And, at that time I had an 8th grader, a 6th grader, a 2nd grader, and 2 pre-Ks. So they were like 13, 12, 7, 4, and 3. It was crazy. I couldn't go anywhere to run this business, so blitzing was out of the option. It was not even on my radar to be able to do that. Social media, and I didn't know I was doing this at the time, but I just used what I had. I used my phone, I used my computer, I used Facebook and the contacts that I had, and just ran with it. I didn't have a choice. The summer and winter before I joined in January, we literally ate rice and beans 4 and 5 days a week. There was never meat on my table, ever. If we had meat, it was because something was on clearance or on sale, or somebody gave it to us. It was just crappy. I don't know any other way to describe it. It's not how I wanted to live. It's not what I wanted for my family. It's not what I wanted for my kids. Honestly, I needed to be in a food line. I needed to have assistance, but I was too prideful for it. I fed my kids. There was a couple of times that we did go without lunch, and I hate that. It breaks my heart to this day that my kids had to do that. Anyways, fast forward to January of 2014. It was time. We couldn't do it anymore. The little savings that we had moved to Tennessee with was completely drained. The money was gone, and there were no other option to get some kind of job. My predicament was that I did have 2 kids who could not go to school at the time. So I had to be able to pay for daycare, and I had not been in the job force in probably 10 years at that point. So, finding a job that short of notice, and that would pay for daycare and still give us, I needed really like $1,000 a month to make ends meet. It couldn't happen. Everybody knows how expensive daycare is. So I started looking for something to do from home. I had been talking to my sponsor for about a year off and on about this business. I'd done another health and wellness company before. I had worked with network marketing before, and I won't name who it is, but it was not one of the ones that people are generally successful with. And I really just needed something that I knew I could make immediate money with. And when she talked to me about 2 things, Wrap Cash and Fast Start bonuses, it was like a light bulb went off, and I was like, I'm in. Let's do it. So I signed up on January the 22nd, within just a few days, I had my 4 loyal customers. 2 of them were my family. And one was a friend from high school. One was a girl that we went to church with. Between Wrap Cash, or not Wrap Cash, but your Wrap Rewards, I did get my first 4 in my 30 days, so I got my products credit. Between all of those, my first auto ship was 2 boxes of wraps. I had $800 in Wrap Cash in less than 30 days. Just from every time I would get money, I would buy another box of wraps, or I would sign 2 loyal customers and I would cash in that $25 wrap reward right then so I could get those wraps back and start making money. That saved our butts like crazy. I remember distinctly in February, they came to shut off my water, and I had just that day made the money from Wrap Cash that paid for that. And I was like, will you not shut it off? I will write you a check right now. There was no money in the account. It was a hot check. But I was going to go deposit that Wrap Cash. I'll write you a check right now if you won't cut it off. And the guy was like, okay, I can do that. And I went straight to the bank and deposited that money so that, the check would clear. But that was our life. That's what we lived life. It was completely stressful all the time. So, we're here to talk about auto ship. Y'all, I never, ever, ever miss an auto ship. It never happened. I would use my Wrap Cash to pay for that. I would use the money that I made on my check, which was not much. My first month was like $36 or $37. It wasn't much. But I saw the value too in the Fast Start bonuses. I saw that if I helped people and I helped them help other people, that it was beneficial to me. I made $100. So I started signing distributors. I did go diamond in 99 days. So by the end of April, I was diamond, which was just, I got the $10,000 bonus. So, having a $2,000 check, $1,800 check every month was outrageous to me. It was, I was just flabbergasted that we felt so rich. We just felt like we were on cloud 9 because we didn't have to, the struggle of not having food, the struggle of your utilities getting turned off all the time was not there anymore. I was, for the most part, paying my bills on time. We were still trying to get caught up. Our house in Oklahoma sold about that time, so that took a lot of pressure off of us, which was a huge, huge blessing. But I sat there for until the next March. I didn't go double diamond until the next March. And I think looking back now, even though I ran my auto ship, I worked my business, I was consistent and things like that, I really didn't think I was worth more than anything, more than what I had. I didn't feel like I was worth more than $1,000 a month. And, I've sat at double diamond for almost a year and a half now. My husband did promote to double diamond this year in March, but I still think that I struggle with that I'm not worth more, that if I make more money than, a double diamond income, that, it's beyond me. I'm not worth that, and it's not attainable. So that's something I struggle with, but I want people to realize, and I try to express this to my team, and I hope that when I share this with them that they hear it from y'all as well. I hope they hear what y'all have said. But it's so important. We've talked already about being a product of the product, and we've talked about the importance of, when you run your auto ship, that's how you get paid. But I don't think people get it. If you're not going to do this to make money, then why are you doing it? I get the fun and I get the friendship, but ultimately at the end of the day, your job is to make money. You only make money if you are using a product and selling it because of your testimony and you only make money if you're running that auto ship. You know, it is not okay to count on that 150 ppb, because I've seen it too many times where people have returned products, or, you know, you miscalculated, or something happens at the end of the day on the last month or whatever, and you miss out on paychecks. It's happened way too many times. Run an 80 BB auto ship, put a box of wraps in there, use one product that you can have a quick testimony with, like hair, skin, and nails or greens, and be done with it. It's already paying for itself. You're not even out of pocket. If you'll get out and hustle and sell those wraps, you have to actually do it. My story is not long and it's not fantastical, but I think if you remember, if you've got something that is driving you, for me it was my kids, it was my family, it was being able to actually eat something other than rice and beans and ramen and bologna, because I was sick of it. It was being able to pay for soccer cleats and my kids to actually play a sport. It was being able to not say no to every single thing. I was tired of it. My why drove me huge, big time. It drove me. And we have to get back to that.
You guys' stories are so inspirational. Mine seems so boring. Like, wow.
Tell us your story, because I think we all have such different stories that people need to hear. I think people need to hear what you're going to say.
So, I'm a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for 20 years. My husband and I have 5 kids together. We are both college educated, both worked full-time jobs. We have nice cars. We have a nice house. We have a boat. We have an acreage. We have a very good, cushy lifestyle. And I had my dream job. I worked, I was a nurse manager. I had a large territory that I covered. I was gone a lot. I was on call a lot. I wasn't able to go, and at the time I didn't look at this as a negative, but now I look back at it and think, what was I thinking? Why was that my dream job? But I wasn't able to go back to my family's on the other end of the state at the holiday times because my territory, I was on call, and so I had to stay in a certain area, a mileage around. But I was very passionate about what I did, and I always felt that I was so good at it that was my purpose, that's why I was here. God drove me to take care of other people and help other people at this horrible time in their life. And January of 15, I had to look at a calendar here, January of 2015, our middle child, our 17-year-old son at the time, became very sick over just, within a couple of days, very, very sick, and ended up in the hospital in Children's, and he was very, very ill. And I'm going to shut my office door because my children are out there. Our youngest kids don't quite understand the extent of how sick he was. When we were at Children's Hospital, when we were transferred from the ER from the local hospital to Children's, we were basically told that we need to be prepared for the worst and that we need to start calling our family. And I, as a nurse, knew what those lab numbers meant, but was in just shock. Like, how did this happen? Like, where did this come from? And when we were admitted to the hospital, we instantly, at 3 o'clock in the morning, have 25 doctors in this room wondering why our kid's alive. And we're basically told that we need to be prepared for the worst. We need to start calling our parents. And within a couple, the next morning we come in and they started talking to us about, decisions, like, do we want machines? Do you want your family here? Do your kids know? Just those things in life that you're like, what happened? During that time, my husband and I were both getting phone calls from our employers. Like, are you coming to work? How many days are you going to need off? And I didn't have any vacation. So I had my work stuff at the hospital with us. And he was on bed rest for several days. We had doctors in and out constantly. And like the third or fourth day, we were told that it can go two ways. He won't come out of this, or you have to have a liver transplant. And at that point, they were like trying to figure out who would be a match for him. And if it was an adult, we could do a sliver, but otherwise we'd have to go prep for transplant and we'd have to wait for a full liver transplant. And that we would be in the hospital long term. As the days went by, my husband was going back to work. Well, we lived an hour and a half from the hospital. And so one of us was always having to go home to take care of the other kids. And so we would take turns with one of us would stay there, one of us would go home, and one of us would go to work. It's very hard to leave your child when they're in the hospital to go to work, because you still have a family to feed, you still have bills to pay, but yet as a parent you feel like you should be there. And living in corporate America feels that they need to come first and that you need to put them first and your kid gets put last. And after about 2 weeks in the hospital, he was discharged, but we were told that he would eventually need a liver transplant, and we need to be prepared for that. So we took him home. I was wrote up for the very first time in 20 years of nursing because I had missed so much work, and my performance had dropped, so I had gotten written up for performance while my son was in the hospital. And to me, that really tugged on my heartstrings. That was, I think, the very first time ever that I felt like a failure, that as a mom and as a nurse, because what was I supposed to do? What was important? I didn't feel like should have been important. And that was about the middle of January. So we get him home and kind of get back on just a quiet little trail. We're on medications. Everything's just streaming along. And in February, he was hospitalized again. So we kind of went through that same thing again. My husband would stay there. I would stay at home. We would just kind of shuffle things to make it work. The end of February, the bills came in. And insurance years start over. January 1st, your deductible starts all over. He was hospitalized on January 4th. So we hadn't met our deductible yet at all. Hadn't even touched it. And we had about $25,000 worth of medical bills. And I was working a Monday through Friday position. And I started looking on the computer for weekend bailer shifts. What a bailer basically is you can go to a long-term care facility and work 36 hours from Friday at 6 p.m. to Monday at 6 a.m., and they would pay you 40-hour wages. So I filled out tons of online applications, did a couple interviews, and was hired for a position. So that meant I would work Monday at 8 a.m. to Friday at 5 p.m., Friday at 6 p.m. to Monday at 6 a.m. I had no idea how I was going to make that work. We had a very cushy lifestyle, but the hospital payments that we were going to have to make every month were astronomical. Like, that was going to clean everything out that we had, and we wouldn't have nothing to live on to make these payments. And medical bankruptcy wasn't an option because we didn't have a lot of debt. We just had student loans, the basic, car payments and stuff. And so I took this position, and I knew I was going to be crabby, I was going to be tired, and I was never going to see my kids. And that Sunday would be the week that I would have started that off crazy schedule. I saw this wrap thing on Facebook, and I thought, I don't know what this is, but they had a $500 bonus. And I thought, you know what, if I could make just that $500 the first month, I wouldn't have to go to work at that other position for at least a month. I could figure something out for a month. Like, I could sell my car. I could figure out something to make that medical payment the first month and not have to do that crazy shift. And so I signed up, and the week that I signed up, my employer, my full-time Monday through Friday employer, took another contract. And what the contract entailed was me taking on 65 more files. And at the same time, I wasn't going to make any more money because I was salaried, but I was having to take on all these extra files. So I was working about 60 hours a week at that point. and trying to figure out how to make this AWorks business go. What I did was I just dove into YouTube. I followed everybody that I could figure out who to follow. I had 100 Facebook friends. I didn't have a huge social circle. I literally, if a leader on YouTube told me to do something, I did it 10 times. I talked to everybody. I drove everybody crazy. And I ended up just going Ruby in my first month. How I did it, I just went. I didn't have an option, because if I didn't get that $500 bonus, I had to take that weekend job. And that was just my drive. The end of March, when I went Ruby, my husband got hurt. Not at work, but at home, and was having to prepare for a huge surgery. And that would have been in April. When April came around, the day we were supposed to leave to go to Colorado for Cody's surgery, Dawson crashed and had to be hospitalized in Kansas City. So then once again, now we are faced with more medical bills, because we have two family members hospitalized in 2 different states the same week. And that was when they announced the $10,000 good bonus for going diamond. And I thought, if I can get that $10,000 bonus, I can't imagine what that would do for my family. Like, these bills, I wouldn't have to worry about these medical bills. Like, we can make it on our incomes. Like, my husband and I's income, we can make it. We're fine. We're cushy. But these medical bills were getting us. And so I just pushed super hard, and I got that $10,000 diamond bonus in 3 months. And then they had the $15,000 double diamond bonus. And I thought, gosh, if I can just do this a little harder, just push a little harder, I can do this. And I pushed even harder, and I just loved everybody. If I helped somebody get to Ruby and help change their family, it would change my family. And that's just what I did. I just built Rubies and helped people get them bonuses, and went to double diamond in 4 months. And in December of last year, I earned the first AWorks cruise. And I had given my position, my vacation notice at work. And the week before, my employer called me and said, "Hey, I'm sorry to let you know, but currently you're the only nurse we have licensed in that state, and we can't let you go." And I said, so I told my husband I was crushed and devastated. I'd never had a passport before. I'd never been on a cruise ship. Was completely devastated. And he says, "I think that's your sign. I think this is the point where you get to be a mom full time." And I gave my notice, and in March of this year, I went triple diamond, and I just keep going forward. My life's so much different, but I've never not ran an auto shipment. But I came from a very different background. I looked at it as a small investment back in to my business. Like Vanessa had said and Hannah had said, I looked at it as a business. You know, if I was making any money, I was coming out ahead. Most people don't even make $500 within a network marketing business in a lifetime, and I was making more of that in a month. And so I just drove forward, and I never ran out of people to talk to, because I was always adding new people, and I was talking to everybody. And I just had to make those payments. Like, it is what it is. I never made an excuse. I could have made several excuses. Sorry, I have to take my son to the doctor today, or you just whatever. I couldn't. I had those bills to pay.
Because it'd been a long time since I'd had like a job, you know, outside of being a stay-at-home mom. This is work. I'm not sure about this. You know, I'm, you know, staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning and getting up at 6 a.m. and I'm not getting my 12 hours of sleep, and I don't like it. And I had to have a come to Jesus meeting with myself that, you know, this had to be done. I think all of us have said in one form or fashion that we just had to do it.
I didn't have a choice, and none of us had a choice. Like, everybody's why was different, but what mattered is we had to do it.
Yeah. I guess it comes down to, are you willing to actually do it or not?
Yeah.
There are no excuses if you are.
You know, and I did a stint of being a single mom for a while, and I understand when people say it's hard, but everybody has it hard. You just don't know what their heart is.
Mhm.
You know, I worked my business several times from hospital rooms. I know several people on my team that work from hospital rooms. I did it while working a full-time job and raising a family. You did it while homeschooling your kids.
Which, looking back, I didn't see it that way, but that is a full-time job too. You know, I didn't see it that way at the time, but looking back, you know, that took up a large majority of my day.
And now financially, I'm still in it because I want a paycheck every month. But what I love most is the freedom that it's given me to be a mom. I missed out on so many things in my kids' lives that I didn't even know about. I didn't know my kids. And this is the first summer ever that I'm actually getting to be a mom. You know, like taking the boys fishing at all hours, you know, learning that those two little kids at 12 and 14 know more about fishing poles than some adult men, you know, where to put your hook and how to tie a knot and what kind of fish you're going to cook. You know, on holidays, there's so many people that don't get to spend holidays with their families like we do. You know, that's a true gift.
I love your perspective because I don't have your perspective. I like the work you were working a full-time job. I can't give that perspective. I love your story. It's a great story.
I worked a full-time job working 60 hours a week. But, you know, and I was like, you know,
Promoted to double diamond in how long?
4 months.
That's crazy. That's insane. Insane.
Yeah.
So
With the 100,
when did you join?
March of 15.
So, wow. It's like 18 months. That's crazy.
Yeah. And I didn't have a huge social circle. I just had 100 Facebook friends. But I had bills to pay.
So what did you do then? You just, everybody you met to, did you blitz a lot? What did you do?
I didn't give people the option. I just said, what product do you want to try? You know, when I was blitzing people, when I would, you know, have a conversation, I had a catalog. I took a catalog with me everywhere. And I knew when I met somebody, it was like, this product will work for you. Do you want to try it? Do you want to buy it retail or loyal customer?
Now, I heard you say earlier that you were shy.
Super shy.
So how did that work?
I had bills to pay. If I didn't make the money every month, I had to take that weekend job. You make it work, you know, no matter what your situation is, you find people. If you want it bad enough, you will find a way.
And I think some people, we say that and people hear that as being harsh, but it really is just the truth. If you want it bad enough, you'll make it happen.
And if you want to change bad enough.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it. I'll never get back the moments that corporate America robbed me from. Yeah. Well, ladies, I'm going to shut this recording off.
Alrighty.